is for you. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heiss. I'm coming to you live from Sneads Ferry, North Carolina, and join with me, as always, out in beautiful Boise, Idaho. We've got Dustin. How you living?
I'm living good, Allie. I'm living good, feeling good. It's not Victory Monday, but we'll call it Victory Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday until there isn't a victory.
It's victory all the way
until it's not. Yes. No, the week's been good. I feel like I just saw you on Sunday. So here we are.
Well, you did. And it is Victory Tuesday. Like we said, it is victory, whatever the day of the week is, all the way up until kickoff on Sunday, which is 4 o'clock Eastern this upcoming Sunday against the Denver Broncos. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that matchup. We are going to talk about all of the moves, the signings. Joe Flacco is now in Cleveland Browns. We've got things to talk about. We're going to get into all of that here as we go along on this beautiful Tuesday evening. And thanks everybody for joining us on a Tuesday.
Special edition of this Tuesday because we think people should travel and enjoy their holiday with their family. And so
I would like to travel tomorrow. I'm traveling home to the great state of Ohio for Thanksgiving. So looking forward to that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about Barley House?
Guys, if you haven't stopped in at Barley House, give them a try. They have great food, great drinks. They're right down there, right in the heart of downtown Cleveland. Great place to watch home or away games. And by the way, if you follow them and us on the Insta, that's right, the Instagram, go follow us over there at Here We Go Brownies on Instagram. You get entered every single week for a $30 gift card. Who doesn't like a $30 gift card for free food and drinks? I know I'm all right. I'm down with that. So go over to our Instagram page and get in on that deal and go check them out. If you're in Cleveland, they do, especially for the pregame. They're always there for the pregames out on the street, but they're also there during the game and after the game. So have a great time at Barley House.
Sit long, talk much, and laugh often. I like that. I like that. Okay. So last we spoke, towards the very end of the show on Sunday, Dustin, it was announced that Joe Flacco was now Cleveland Brown. He's been signed to the practice squad. What do you make of that? I know we talked a little bit about it on Sunday, but now that we've had a couple of days to process it and probably understand a little bit more about what it means for your Cleveland Browns, what are your thoughts?
Well, he's one at the highest level, right? He's the ultimate veteran mentoring. I think that'll be a good thing in the locker room. Myles Garrett spoke highly of it. Elijah, some of the other folks that have played with him, spoke highly of that. Just having that calming presence in the quarterback room, I think, is a good thing in that space. Like I said, he's played playoffs, won a Super Bowl, and at the end of the day, I gotta say, I feel very comfortable with that as an emergency quarterback. And I think this team is not only looking to make a playoff run, but maybe a division run and maybe a run in the playoffs. And all I need to do is look no further than the San Francisco 49ers, who did not have an emergency quarterback on that roster, and that game unraveled very quickly. So I think having a person like this, and of course we know the NFL kind of fixed that rule because of that, but it makes me feel comfortable having an emergency quarterback. Again, I'm okay with riding with DTR.
Yeah,
I think Stefanski will expand this offense week after week to what he's comfortable with. But you know what? If Cleveland lays an egg and loses 2 in a row, you can turn to someone like Joe Flacco, right? Someone that's experienced that just needs to go out and manage the game. Because that's one thing he doesn't do is turn the ball over and stuff like that, right? Those things that you don't want from your quarterback. So I'm okay riding with DTR. But in the event that something does happen or unforeseen, because hello, Cleveland, we have a very unforeseen season. Everything that we thought was going to happen in late August. Well, we'll get into that in this show. There's a lot to talk about in that space. But if someone told me we would be here at this point with these Cleveland Browns, yeah. So I'm okay with it. I like it. I don't know what they paid for him. It probably isn't a lot,
Wow.
So we're 30 some million under the cap. I'm not worried about that. I just think it's a smart, safe move. I guess it's a safe move. I guess it's a smart and safe at the same time.
Yeah, I know that I've seen a lot of mixed emotions on it. I have some people calling and texting me saying, "Why on earth would they have done this?" And I have others saying, "Hey, I like the move." So I
Right.
know that it's kind of a mixed, kind of a split on the decision to bring him in. So personally, I like it. I think that the expectation as Browns fans, and I think this organization, is to roll with DTR until you can't.
Right.
And what he showed to you on Sunday, I think that there's a lot of promise surrounding Dorian Thompson Robinson. I mean, he protected the football for the most part. I mean, I don't blame him for that interception. I think that he played very smart. He was confident in going through his reads, confident in his throws. And the game plan around him was built to his skill set. It wasn't like Baltimore, him going out and, throwing it 5,000 times down the field like the game plan was for Deshaun Watson. So if you can build those pieces around DTR, I think you feel relatively comfortable. So I think that the expectation is to roll with DTR until you can't. And
Sure.
hopefully that time doesn't come, right? Hopefully that he is the answer throughout the remainder of the season. That's not something that we're used to this season, is having um, somebody somebody consistently at the quarterback position. It's been PJ Walker, it's been Deshaun Watson, it's been DTR. And let me tell you this is crazy, but the Browns have had now 3 separate quarterbacks lead this team on game-winning drives. Crazy to think that this could potentially be 4 if he were to play a game. But I like it. I think that he's going to be more of a mentor in the room rather than an on the field starter. I think that that's probably the expectation when they signed him. Because reminder, guys, Deshaun Watson is not with the team. He had shoulder surgery. It was announced today that was successful.
Out in
He
LA.
is,
Yep.
yeah, out in LA. He is not going to be with this team. So there is no Deshaun Watson's the vet in the room, and he's going to be able to help DTR. That's not how that works. And reminder, we talked about this on Sunday. The Browns do not have a quarterback coach on staff. So bringing
Correct.
somebody in like Joe Flacco, I think it's absolutely the move.
Well, and here's the other thing. Let me ask you this question, Allie. Do you think DTR won? I mean, I think the Browns were going to sign Joe Flacco no matter what the performance was on Sunday from DTR.
Yeah.
Do you feel with that game-winning drive, DTR kind of solidified himself as the starter the following week? Like,
Yes.
I think it was up in the air. We're going to give this rookie a shot. We're going to see how he does, and then we're going to sign a veteran. But I think because of that drive and the way he led the team down there, he earned. And I think maybe DTR isn't, maybe he is on kind of a pitch count, week to week. Let's see if he progresses, and if he regresses, we have options. I don't know. I kind of feel
Yes.
like that's kind of what the coaching
Yeah.
staff is doing. So
Absolutely. I think that's 100% the case. And I think that's probably the reason that you didn't see the Browns sign Joe Flacco prior to Sunday.
right,
I know that he had visited with the team and he went through his workout prior to the game on Sunday. I know a lot of people expected him to sign at that point in time. But the Browns waited until after Sunday, after the game, to go ahead and sign him. And I think that was the move. You feel comfortable and confident riding with DTR. What he showed you, I think he earned his spot as the starter. I was happy to see that Kevin Stefanski already came out on his press availability and
yep,
announced DTR as a starter in Denver. I think that was huge. I'm glad that we're not playing, quarterback carousel here, and
well,
whoever we feel
yeah,
does the best in practice that week is getting the start. I'm glad that we're sticking with one guy until we can't. And again, we can't predict the future. We don't know what that looks like. But in the event
right.
that they have to, I feel more comfortable about that now than I did maybe a few days ago.
Well, and let's be honest. Like we saw Joe Flacco last year. He came into Cleveland and
Yeah,
beat us. Right. It's not like he
hated that.
can't. Right. Not like he can't play quarterback. But here's the truth. I mean, DTR was very emotional after the Browns game. You could see he had tears in his eyes, and the announcers were asking why. And I think he had to do this game for himself, and um, really had to win this game for himself based on what happened to in that first game where he was thrown to the Wolves, right, in that Ravens game, right, where he had no pre-week of practice, and obviously you could tell what a difference, right? What a week of practice what the ones make with a quarterback, and you get several days with those guys because were some balls overthrown? Yes, but he was getting the ball into his playmakers' hands, right? He looked a lot more comfortable behind center. So,
Guys, if you're wondering what you should have for dinner, the answer for you is Angelo's Pizza. Be sure to head on over to Lakewood to get your hands on the best pizza in all Northeast Ohio. Angelo's does it right. They start out with a buttery crust and they do double layer toppings. It's great in the restaurant, at home, and even just as great the following day. So be sure to head on over to Angelo's today. And one more thing before we welcome on our next guest, which that interview will be brought to you by our friends over at K&D. Whether it's sophisticated suburban living, luxury downtown digs, or senior housing, K&D, the largest property management company in Northeast Ohio, has a perfect home for everyone. K&D is your one-stop shop for housing in the region with apartments and amenities for everyone, including residential, commercial, retail, and also corporate housing. Find your dream home at K&D. Visit knd.com to get started. That's the letter K, the word and, the letter D.com. And with that, let's go out onto the Medical Minute with Dr. David Ullery in my kitchen over here. David, how are we doing today?
Hey, Allie. Hello, Dustin. Doing great. How are you guys?
good.
Living the dream.
I think
Dream.
you're wearing the right hat. You're wearing the right hat this week. So,
Some may say there's a big game this week.
Some may say. So let's get into it. Dr. David Ullery, talk to us. Let's start with Joe Burrow. Since we last spoke, Joe Burrow is now out with a season-ending injury. We watched that game, and he couldn't even throw the ball. He could not even grip the ball, couldn't throw it. His wrist looked like a noodle. It was really gross, if you ask me. But talk to us about what that injury means and exactly what the injury was.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have insider access to the specific diagnoses, but a lot of the speculation out there is talking about either a ligament injury to the middle of his wrist, probably the scapholunate ligament, or outside of his wrist out here, something called the TFCC. Either one, though, is going to severely affect throwing mechanics. Both of them will lead to feelings of instability, decreased grip strength, and just overall pain. As you could see, I mean, he tried to throw the ball one time and was, bent over in pain and wincing pretty significantly. And so with it being his throwing hand and his dominant wrist, it creates quite a bit of instability for any effort like that. And so certainly it is a surgical injury, which we've looked at or which we've heard. It'll likely require some sort of reconstruction. In terms of recovery, he probably won't be throwing the ball for 2, 3, 4 months. And so certainly his season ending, but should be good to go for next season. Looking at some of the data out there for professional athletes, upwards of 80% will return to previous level of sport after having surgery for an injury like this. So I would anticipate seeing him back on the field next year, no problem.
David, real quick question for you. Obviously, Deshaun Watson had his surgery today. It was successful. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, what that recovery looks like for Deshaun going forward over the next several weeks with that surgery he had out in LA?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that was today, as you mentioned. And like we talked about last week, likely if it is truly just a bony injury, those heal a little bit quicker. And so hopefully he's back to throwing here in the offseason, but more quickly than if it were a labrum repair or something, a little bit more soft tissue. Either way, he should be good to go for the spring and then getting into the summer as well, and should be back to full go next football season. Like we talked about, if there's a deep playoff run, maybe he could be back if it really is truly just a bony injury that they repaired. But again, I don't know all the full details, so it's hard to speculate.
Some bad news on the Browns front. We found out recently that Rodney McLeod is now out for the season with a bicep injury. Huge blow to the safety room, and I think that's really not getting talked about enough because you've got Juan Thornhill's out with a calf injury. He's week to week. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But Rodney McLeod has been playing really good football. He is now out for the season. And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but that will require surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. So what it sounds like is he has a distal biceps tendon injury, which distal meaning further away from the middle of the body, so more at the elbow area where the biceps attaches to the bone near the elbow. And so that almost always requires surgery in any sort of young, healthy individual because you can lose a lot of your grip strength, elbow flexion, and forearm rotation without having that fixed. And so pretty common injury. I see it a lot in males, especially in their 40s and 50s who are laborers. For an athlete, certainly in 30s is totally understandable. But I just looked at some studies on this too before I came on, and even up to 94% of patients or players who have this injury and have it repaired surgically will get back to the same level of play and will play as many games as a comparable person who didn't have this injury. So it's a very reproducible surgery, very quick and easy to recover from. Certainly will be in a splint or a brace for up to 2 months after surgery, but he'll get his full range of motion back and start getting back to sporting activity probably about 3 or 4 months, and he'll be back in the field no problem next season.
I was concerned when I first saw that because Rodney McLeod, I think he's 33 or 34 years old. So when I first saw that, I thought, actually, one of the questions I had on here to ask you, David, was, what could this mean for his career? Could this be kind of a career-ending situation for him? But it doesn't sound like that is going to be the case.
No, I wouldn't anticipate that at all, unless it's kind of, the final nail in the coffin for him. If there's a lot of other lingering things that just kind of pushed him over the edge. But, this in isolation, certainly I'd be very rare to be a season or career ending injury, I should say. It's the biceps muscle in terms of repair. It's very forgiving. It heals with pretty good reliability. And so as long as everything goes according to plan for him, there should be no issues getting back on the field.
All right, cool.
That's good
well,
news.
there you have it. Yeah, we'll get you out of here on this one. Just some week-to-week stuff, going through the injury report, and I don't have it here to display, but a couple that we do know of, David, is DeJuan Jones. He's been kind of day-to-day, week-to-week for a while now, just beat up on the offensive line. He's had a knee situation, kind of beat up. And then Anthony Walker Jr. being another one with a hamstring. I mentioned Juan Thornhill with a calf. I just want to talk about the preparation for those players. Those that are on more of a week-to-week status, obviously they're not going to have surgery or anything like that. But can you just speak a little bit to some of the preparation that those players will have to go through and what that might look like in gearing up towards playing on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I think specifically kind of looking at them, you have to look at it both from a position standpoint as well as what the specific injury is. So DeJuan Jones, for example, they label it as a knee injury or knee situation. So certainly isn't structural because he played very well, I might add. And so it may be an issue of some swelling in the knee, whether there's some arthritis or if he does have a prior meniscal injury. It's hard to know exactly what's going on, but either way, it's not instability, it's not structural. And so for him, it's about resting in between the activity because it probably flares up, it probably swells. And so for an offensive lineman, so much of what they do is really based on the fundamentals. It's footwork, it's being in the right position, and it's sort of, knowing whether it's a pass or a run block. The playbook itself, I think they can pick up pretty easily, especially someone at his caliber of level of playing. And so a lot of that is going to be spent in the training room, whether it's heat therapy or ice therapy, making sure he maintains his range of motion and reduces swelling. And in terms of being able to play the way he did, a lot of that's just based on going off of adrenaline and getting that surge at the time of playing a game. And, he may be getting an injection or something in the knee that helps reduce inflammation as well. For the other two, for Anthony Walker with the hamstring, and then I think it's Thornhill.
Juan Thornhill.
Those are more muscular. And so those are a little bit more soft tissue based. And those are a little bit more unpredictable just because, one tweak, you kind of move the wrong way, you stretch the wrong way, and that injury can flare right back up. For us Ohio State fans, we experienced the frustration of it all last season with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And so those, again, a lot of time in the training room. And these guys, especially in the middle of the season, practice does not need to be intense. Like, we know they're in shape. We know that they can be in the position they need to be. It's just a matter of getting there. And so it's a lot of time with the athletic trainers and physical therapists working on whether it's muscle massage, muscle relaxation, things like dry needling. They can do ultrasound, they can do cupping, all these different modalities to help relax the muscles, get them to heal, stretch, heat, ice. And then when it comes time to game time, they're ready for it. And so, like I said, we know that more muscle-based injuries can be tweaked at any moment. And so these are truly week to week in the sense that they really never get time to fully heal during the season. Yeah. And so if they plant the wrong way, step the wrong way, they can kind of tweak it, strain it a little bit at any moment. And so it's a lot of time off in between games just so that they can play as much as possible, hopefully.
Yeah. I totally forgot to mention this to you earlier at dinner, but I heard something on Cleveland Browns Daily today that I thought was actually important to bring up. And they were talking about just how often injuries are happening at a more rapid rate, whether it's ACLs, Achilles, things like that are happening throughout the league, that we're seeing like more and more of than we did years ago. And they were saying it's because, these guys are bigger, better, faster, stronger. Your muscles can get bigger, better, faster, stronger, but your ligaments remain the same. And I thought that was really interesting to maybe why we're seeing some of the injuries that we're seeing, that these guys are bigger and stronger than ever, but ligaments ultimately remain the same.
Yeah, certainly they are a much more static tissue type. They're not like muscles that you can train hypertrophy, get bigger. I mean, you see, obviously with bodybuilders and larger muscle mass, there is some training that you can do for ligaments. Yeah, that's look at those guns. There is certainly training you can do to make them more pliable, more stretchy, and sort of get them ready for these sorts of activities. But yeah, I mean, certainly it's not nearly as they're not nearly as pliable or can't be trained the same way. So that's an interesting theory. There certainly could be something to that. I do know I tried looking at this probably last year in terms of just the overall number of ACL injuries or other injuries that have been happening. There's a slight increase, but pretty consistently over the last 5 to 10 years, it's been fairly similar. I think a lot of it is we do see a lot more reporting on it too. So maybe in the past we didn't hear about it as much. I say especially with Twitter, we get so much more instant access to this. And so while it might be a slight increase, especially for the more, I would say, prominent players that we're seeing a lot more injuries in, I think overall the rates haven't changed a ton, but I know there's other conversations about turf versus grass. And just the length of the season as well. And so there's a lot that goes into it. But I mean, you're absolutely right. For ligaments specifically, you cannot train them like you do a muscle. And so more speed, more agility, more strength. The ligaments and the bones are still the same. So
interesting.
David, let me ask you this question real quick, because to double down on what Ali was saying there, there's also been some studies that show if you look at the NFL player, what training camps are like versus today's training camps, and they don't get as much practice and much lead time, and they aren't playing as many reps in preseason games. Do you think any of that equates to it just actually training, just physically the body, right? Physically getting out there and having your body game ready? Because it seems like you'll see a lot of these players will go down and train or, in preseason before they've even played it down, in the regular season. And a lot of it they're saying is because they just aren't game ready and they just aren't getting those reps in.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with it as well, because you cannot. It's very, very hard to recreate and replicate game action. No matter how intense you make a practice, there's nothing like the actual game. Because I mean, there's absolutely a mental and emotional component to it. The game is just so much different than practicing lining up against your own team, and so that extra jolt from the adrenaline and from the energy there is going to lead to bigger hits, lead to faster accelerations, and just different response times and things like that. So I do know there's a couple teams, I can't think of them off the top of my head, who have been pretty adamant with their head coaches saying that their players will play in preseason games because they feel it prepares them better than seeding them. And they've at least felt anecdotally in their experience that their starters are seeing more injuries if they have not played in the preseason. So I think preseason does sort of add this nice little transition from OTAs to the season, where you're getting sort of a middle intensity. And so it's kind of ramping up to what game speed is like, but it's not regular season play. And so I think that there is a lot of benefit to them. And even though it does extend the length of the season, it does get these players a little bit more ready for what actual seasonal play is going to be like. And so it may be something where, if they look at it closer, they consider having another bye week during the season or finding a different way to shorten the season, because, it is a long season either way. But I think there is some value to be had for the preseason and the way it serves a transition from off season to the regular season, and to kind of gear up or ramp up that intensity so it's not going from 0 to 100 like that.
Right.
Interesting. Well, there you have it. I feel a lot smarter now. Thanks for teaching us, Dr. David Ullery. Thanks for taking the time for us. That is the Medical Minute that was brought to you by K&D Property Group. Thank you. Go Browns.
Thanks for having me on. Go Browns. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. I love it. That's a Medical Minute brought to you by our friends over at K&D Property Group. Dustin, real quick, why don't you tell our listeners about Cleveland whiskey?
Well, Cleveland whiskey, celebrate Cleveland. It's Celebrate Tuesday. Hey, if you haven't tried, get some of the whiskey Christmas spiced stuff. It's in the stores now. It's you can get it at the liquor stores. But guys, go out there and get it and enjoy it. Get some of the peanut butter. The Magic Rabbit. I love that stuff. The peanut butter chocolate. It's delicious. But go and try it. It's great. Get it wherever you want in Ohio. And if they don't have it in Ohio, go ask for it. But go out to clevelandwhiskey.com to find some.
There you go. All right, let's get into it. We're halfway through the season, just about. And crazy to think that we're there.
No. We're more than halfway through.
We are more than half. You're right.
7-3, baby. 7-3.
When we started, Dustin, we did our preseason predictions. We did our quarter season predictions for some NFL superlatives. So let's do our midseason. And I want to start and just limit this only to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
But I want to start with MVP. Who is your MVP for the Cleveland Browns? I think you can go in several different directions here. I have a couple, and I think this is going to be a fun conversation. Start with you. Who's your Browns MVP this point in the season?
This is going to sound weird because I had to look at, like I said, this is tough, right? I'm going to go, this is going to be weird. Maybe people will agree or disagree with me. I'm going to go Dustin Hopkins. And the only reason I say that is because when the game has been on the line, he's had to show up in big moments and get us to a tie or a win. And I just like that he's the guy, right? Like he's been able to do that. So yeah, I just like it. So
he is the guy, and he's done it several times for the Browns so far this season. And we love him. I think that's probably it's probably one of the best trades that the Browns have executed in a long time.
Okay. You know what I don't know, and I haven't done research on this, but you got to remember Dustin Hopkins was kind of battling it out for the kicker for the Chargers. I'd like to see, and we'll get into this in a different episode, how Dustin has compared to the current kicker of the Chargers. Because remember, that was a battle, and Dustin kind of lost the battle. And we're like, okay, are we getting San Diego's leftovers, right? So I'm just curious how that kicker has done.
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
So on the season so far, Dustin Hopkins he's 89.7% field goal percentage. He's 93.8 on extra points.
I love that.
He has contributed 93 points to the Cleveland Browns so far this season, and his longest was 58 yards. Now, when they brought him over, the knock on him was he doesn't have a big leg. Well, I simply beg to differ. I simply beg to differ. Now, let's take a look at Cameron Dicker's stats so far in the season. He's played every game for the Chargers so far. On field goals, he's 94.1%. So you've got 94.1 for field goals versus 89.7 is what Dustin Hopkins has. On extra points, he's 100%. So that's something to see as well. His longest is 55, and he has contributed 77 points. So overall, I think that they're
pretty. Yeah, that's even, a toss-up.
Yeah, they're pretty evenly rated.
To me, that's why it looked like he was someone they could let go because it was so close. You know what I mean? That just goes to prove to me that battle was so close. You could, and I'm assuming they went with. I'm assuming Dickers is the younger guy, correct? He's
correct.
Yeah. So they went with the guy that, the longevity there. So I get that, but yeah. So okay, it's just so pretty much a toss-up.
It is. And I see why you went in that direction. I don't necessarily disagree with this at all. I think that, look, he's contributed 93 points to the Browns. That does not go unnoticed. He's been Mr. Reliable in a lot of ways. So I think this is a good pick for MVP. I'm actually going to go with what I feel is kind of the obvious answer here, and that's Myles Garrett. I think he is potentially in the running for league MVP. I think that is not off the table right now. He leads the league in sacks. He's got 13 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 22 solo tackles so far in the season. He is playing the best football of his career, and he is absolutely changing the outcomes of games. He is dominating on every single play. So I think that he, for me, is the clear and obvious choice for the team MVP. And not even just so much from a contribution standpoint, but we talk about the veteran presence and how this is a team that needed some of these vets to step up. And Myles Garrett has done that in a really big way this season. I think that just the overall essence of this defense is reflective of the play of guys like Myles Garrett. They are game wreckers. They go out on every single solitary snap and are looking to wreck somebody's world. And I think that we're seeing that. We can give a lot of credit to Jim Schwartz. We can give a lot of credit to the scheme. But when it comes down to it, it's always players over plays. And I'm going to give it to Myles Garrett. He is my Browns MVP through this halfway point in the season. Okay, let's move on over to Offensive Player of the Year. Who you got?
I went back and forth on this, but
this one's tough.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to go with this guy just because he's like Mr. Reliable. And
Yep.
by the way, to your point, he's had to play with three different quarterbacks. But Amari Cooper has come up big time and made some big time catches for this team when having to play with multiple quarterbacks. And that's very challenging for someone like a wide receiver, that it's all about
Mhm.
timing with their quarterback. So for me, it's got to be Amari Cooper in the situation that he's been able to come in and be that steady number one receiver for not one, two, but three different quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, I think I agree with this. I'm actually between two guys right now, and Amari Cooper is kind of 1A, and then my 1B is David Njoku.
Yep.
And I know that if we look at this past week, he had the roughest game that he's had so far this season. So I want to take that kind of recency bias out of it, if you will. And I just want to take a look at both of these stats side by side. Listen to this. I did not know this until I just pulled it up. Amari Cooper, 45 receptions. David Njoku, 45 receptions. Amari
Wow.
Cooper, 749 yards. David Njoku, 433. So, of course, those receiving yards are not going to be similar because they play
Sure.
two different positions. So I want to
Yeah.
establish that, of course. Going back to the stat line, Amari Cooper, 2 touchdowns. David Njoku, 2 touchdowns. So
That's
what that
correct.
tells me, what this tells me is these two guys are the safety net for whatever quarterback is out there, whether
Yep.
it's PJ Walker, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson Robinson, or maybe it's Joe Flacco. When in doubt, these two guys are going to be your go-to. Now, I actually think this past game against the Steelers that neither of these guys were that. But consistently over the stretch of the season, I think that they have been. And I think that David is playing some of the best football of his career. And we've been waiting on that breakout season from David Njoku. I think we're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, he hasn't had consistent quarterback play. Now, again, they play two different positions, Amari Cooper and David Njoku, so we don't expect their stat line to be identical, but it's pretty darn close. And I think
Yeah.
that is reflective of these two guys just being the safety net for whatever quarterback is out there. So for the sake of the podcast here, because you are going with Amari Cooper, I'm going to go with David Njoku for the exact same reason, right? These two guys are kind of the heart and soul offensively. You can rely on them really no matter what the situation is. David Njoku struggled with 6 or 7 drops this past week, but when it mattered most, he was there. So really, really fun to see. Defensive player of the year, who you got?
Well, this is why I went with Dustin
Right.
Hopkins.
I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. So I was like, I could just throw him here. Or can I take him for both? But I know for the sake of podcasting, we wanted to like have separate players. But yeah, this is an obvious one. This guy is a one-man wrecking machine. Even Tomlin came out and goes, "Hey, he makes everybody's life a nightmare, in a football game." And he
Mhm.
did it from the first snap on Sunday. And like you said, he's probably up for Defensive Player of the Year or Most Valuable Player. Like, Ali, I think he's playing his best football ever. And I think he's also
Yeah.
playing his most confident football because I think Schwartz has kind of unleashed the beast. Like, he's really just let him be Myles Garrett. And I think for the first time, there's no guardrails for Myles Garrett. Like, he is just going to go out and be a game wrecker, and he has continued to do that. And when they do focus on him, folks like Smith and Tomlinson and other guys end up being disruptors themselves, and that's why that front defensive unit is such. It's just wreaking havoc on teams in the National Football League. And Allie, and we talk about this all the time, trenches are where the games are won. And I have seen so many games this year where the Browns defense is just getting the best of offensive
Mhm.
line. And I'm just like, well, that's going to win you the football game. I mean, they're in your backfield. You know what I mean? Like, quickly. And so I like that. So, yeah, Myles Garrett all the way.
Yeah, for all the same reasons. Obviously, mine is Myles Garrett here as well. It doesn't even make sense for me to go in any other direction because that is the clear and obvious pick. This defense, while it's got a lot of very, very talented players, you have the most talented player in all of football, on
Yeah.
this team outside of Patrick Mahomes, right? Like you've got one of one on this defensive line. So we're lucky to have him. And I know I just went through his stats a moment ago for MVP, so I'm not gonna do it again here. But he is the clear and obvious favorite for Defensive Player of the Year as well. Okay, and let's go ahead and wrap up with Rookie of the Year. Who you got?
This one I'm so happy about. I because you just don't know. There was a knock on him coming out of Ohio State.
Yep.
But man, Jones, like what I was watching him do to Watt was just bringing love and joy to me. Like he was just putting like Watt on the ground, like you just stay right there. Like I was loving that. Like you just go right there because got an extra 100 pounds on you, but you're gonna go right there. Um, he has kept that side of the ball alley clean, and I think the Browns are gonna have a real decision to make in the offseason. Like he's really came into this role and just I mean, for a rookie, that's a lot to ask. I'm sorry. It's a lot to ask
Like,
of your rookie.
well, I mean, he's okay. So I want to preface with this: he is also my rookie of the year, and it's just not even close. Now, part of it is because he's the only one that's like actually playing really, truly
Yeah, sure.
valuable every single snap. So
Yeah.
that his
Right.
on the field production obviously is reflective of how many snaps he's getting. But look, he's battled injuries all week, and he has been for several weeks. But he didn't allow a single sack or a single pressure
Right.
against T.J. Watt. Against
Right.
T.J. And
Right.
when you talk about defensive player of the year conversation, TJ Watt is always in that consistently.
Always in it. Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy that's got 11 and a half sacks on the season, 2 forced fumbles and an interception. I mean, he's very, very good. And I hate giving the Steelers any credit. You know that. I don't want to do that on this show. But he is a very, very good football player. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that. And for DeJuan Jones to just absolutely manhandle him in 2 separate games is insane. I think you're right. I think the Browns are going to have to make some decisions because, man, you can't not play the guy. He is an absolute beast of a human being. He is playing so well. You're just, man, we talk about how we're lucky to have Myles Garrett. You can say the same thing about having DeJuan Jones solidifying the right side of this offensive line.
Well, look how large of a man he is, right? Let's just not. I mean, that guy creates so much traffic over there.
6'8", 374 pounds.
Right. That's like 2 men. Let's just call it that. Okay. But here's the truth in that. Like the fact that what did we get him in the 5th round? I think is he a 5th round pick? Yeah,
he is. Yeah.
I mean, is that not the steal of the draft for the Browns? Like to bring in a 5th, which by the way, I think because of his knock, probably would have went higher in the draft, right? Because there was this whole thing like he takes plays off, yada yada. But the fact that where we got him and what value he has brought to that position, a very valuable position, and how well he's played so quick and so early, I don't know. Like that's a lot to ask of a player, and for him to pull it off is kind of phenomenal, I think. But
I think if we were able to do a redraft of the 2023 NFL draft, he would probably be the first tackle taken, and he would also be a top 10 pick in this past year's draft. And look, I love Paris Johnson. I think he's playing well in Arizona, another Ohio State kid. I think he's playing good football, but DeJuan Jones is, you can say that you can give credit to his size. You can give credit to him coming into a good situation, sitting behind Jack Conklin for a while, having Bill Callahan as his offensive line coach. There's a lot of positive things that gave him this opportunity, but also you have to give credit to the player. I mean, the knock on him, Dustin, you mentioned it coming into the draft, was he is a little lazy from time to time. Maybe he would rather go play basketball, which imagine him on the court, by the way. That's a crazy thought.
I don't want to guard that guy.
No, definitely not. But you have to give credit to him as a player. What he is doing is, man, it's a sight to see. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, and to talk about that even just a little further is, think about it. So a guy that big, most people would not think he's fast, right? And for him to play at the level he's playing, going up against elite players like Watt, right? They're quick, they're fast, they're like Myles Garrett, right? They can get out the ball, they can get around him. He's not allowing that. I think that is what really is the key to this, is he's not allowing those players to get in space and get to the quarterback. Like he's literally been able to play with quick feet, I guess is the best way to describe that, right? Like if you watch, his footwork is pretty good. Like he's pretty quick out there. And I think that is probably the biggest thing, is he's been able to go up against some elite talent. Both, I mean, look what he did against the Niners, right? Like, I mean, you can look at some of these great defensive units And that's a tall tale for anybody. I don't care who you're playing, right?
Yeah.
And for him to be able to rein in that kind of performance has been great to watch.
It's been a lot of fun. I don't have enough good things to say about him. Real quick, I don't know about you guys, but I like saving money, and that's why I would do all of my furniture shopping needs at the Cleveland Furniture Company. They have their roots right there in Cleveland, dates back to the 1970s, by the way. They're a true family business. They save their customers money because they buy in bulk direct from the factory. So be sure to head on over to the Cleveland Furniture Company today. Get your hands on maybe a new recliner, kick back, watch the Browns, maybe a new sofa. You never know. Or if you need a dining room table, they've got you covered. So be sure to head on over to the Cleveland Furniture Company today to shop now. This next segment where we do our preview matchup is brought to you from the couch from Cleveland Furniture Company.
From the Couch is brought to you by the Cleveland Furniture Company.
All right, we are going to Denver on Sunday, which is not an easy place to play, by the way. The altitude is certainly something to battle.
Why did the Denver Broncos have to start caring? Sorry.
I know. Unfortunately, they are hitting their stride at the right time, and that is kind of a scary thought. Right now, the matchup predictor on ESPN has the Browns at 52% chance to win. So this is kind of evenly split. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, the Broncos are hitting their stride at the right time. I don't like it. I still don't trust them, like at all, actually.
Vegas has them winning by a game or a point and a half, I think.
Yeah. Well,
so it's kind of a
home field advantage. You have to consider that. Russell Wilson, he's playing better football than he did last year. I think that partly is the Sean Payton effect. Look, I'm going to name some of these guys. I'm going to go through this depth chart. I'm going to go through the matchup, and they don't scare me. This isn't. I mean, frankly, the Ravens actually scared me. I was terrified of that game. Pittsburgh doesn't. I think that their offense was pretty bland. And by the way, they fired their offensive coordinator. We didn't even mention that. But when you look at this Broncos depth chart, I'm just going to go through offensively. Russell Wilson, we know who he is. We have shown, or the Browns have shown defensively, that they can contain those dual threat quarterbacks. So, I mean, remember what we did against Lamar Jackson. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah really kind of spying on the likes of Lamar Jackson. I think that it's going to be a similar situation in Denver because Russ can make plays with his feet. He can also throw the ball. He's accurate. He can kind of do it all, even though he's kind of on the decline here. Receivers, they've got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, the running back Javonte Williams, none of which just scare me. Tight end, Adam Troutman, I'm not entirely blown away by. Got a decent offensive line. They've got some dudes there that can protect Russ, but again, he gets out of the pocket. He makes plays on his own. So partly the reason that they've lost some games is because of their offensive line. So I think that our matchup with the Browns defensive line against their offensive line, I feel a lot better about that than I did really against the Ravens, to be perfectly transparent. Now, defensively, I think that they are a lot worse than they had anticipated. They got rid of some guys like Draymond Jones. They lose him to Seattle. I know that they've got Pat Surtain, who is clearly and obviously the best defensive player that they have on their roster. Other than that, they don't really scare me. Baron Browning, former Ohio State legend, linebacker for them. But really, I think this is a matchup that I feel good about. It's just going to Denver, playing in Denver is what scares me more than anything.
So here's a stat that'll blow you away. The NFL ranks defenses on how many yards they give up per game, right? Browns are still number one with 243 yards, Allie, total offense that they give up in a football game. Where do you think the Denver Broncos are ranked?
Oh, man. Give me that again. I can't even process that.
So the NFL ranks their ranking of defenses is how much a team gives up in yardage per game, right? So the Browns have only given – Browns are number one, Dallas is number two, but the Browns have given up 243 yards of total average offense of yards per game per year so far.
So you're saying
how many yards does the Denver Broncos give up per game?
A lot. I think
so
they probably rank fairly last or close to last in the NFL.
Okay, so you're close. You're right on. The Denver Broncos are ranked 32 in the National Football League, giving up 4. Now, this might be an asterisk because of the Miami game, but still, 400 yards they have averaged. That's a lot of yards. I'm sorry, but
lot of yards.
that's 4 football fields of offense they give up per game, basically. So my point being, I guess, even with a rookie quarterback in DTR, I feel like we can move the ball on the Denver Broncos. That's what that tells me. Like maybe DTR can get a little more comfortable in this game, and he's not going to have people like Watt breathing down his throat and be able to actually get some of these guys open. Because if you notice in that Pittsburgh game, the Steelers defense knew what we were doing, right? They knew that we were going to do quick throws, and what were they doing? They were right up there, right? They were right up on them. And I just think this may give DTR some time to get some plays to develop. I don't know. That's just a lot of yards to give up. So I feel confident that the Browns could score some points in this game, and DTR can get some more confidence. That's what I kind of feel based on how many yards they give up.
One thing to note here, Jason just put it in the comments. I forgot to mention that Kareem Jackson, their corner, has been suspended.
Yes.
So, and this is several times that this has happened.
Twice this season, yes.
Twice this season. So he is now suspended without pay for 4 games. So repeated violations of player safety rules. It came against that hit against Josh Dobbs, is what prompted this. So they will be down a corner. Go ahead.
So and a good corner. And by the way, I looked at the play because they showed it. I mean, he clearly was leading with his helmet, like going straight in with his helmet. And you would think he wouldn't do this after being suspended. But Al, if he appeals it, can he still play? I'm trying to remember the rules because I'm assuming he's going to appeal this.
I don't think so. Okay. I would not bank on him being available for Sunday.
Okay, because I didn't know if you appeal it, you could still play, but I'm assuming since the NFL came out with this so early, they were trying to make a point of him not coming to play on Sunday.
Look, I don't know the exact rules, and I don't want to misspeak here, but I would not count on him being available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because you also, if you can't appeal it and play, you may lose that player for later on in the year, right? So that's kind of a double-edged sword too that I can imagine. Oh, well, you played, so those 4 games count now, right, going forward. So that could be an interesting thing. So
yeah, just something to keep in mind. So funny enough, my dad called me and he says, I had a crazy dream. I said, what was it? What was it, Troy?
Boy.
He goes, no, it was crazy. I said, what was it? What could it be?
Well,
He said, I had a dream the Broncos won the Super Bowl. And I said, that is crazy because that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. He goes, I had a dream and I hope I'm wrong. So He's wrong. Guys, if you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you are doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, it's beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. It is loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Before we turn it over, Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about Lorello Vineyards?
Well, guys, get out to Lorello Vineyards in Geneva, Ohio. Get some of this amazing Here We Go Brownies wine. By the way, it's amazing red blend. A few dollars of each of those bottles goes to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and goes to feed the hungry in Cleveland. But you know what? They have whites, they have reds, they have the ice wine. But go out there. And if you know what? If you can't make it out there, go by and say hello to Larry in the Muni lot with the kennel. Say hi to him. He is the front anchor of the Muni lot. Come say hi to him. I guarantee he would probably have some wonderful Lorello wine for you to try. Because guess what, guys? That's how it happened for Allie and I. We were stumbling through the Muni lot. We showed up and they said, you got to go see Larry. Allie says, I like wine. Allie said, I like wine. Allie started having wine. The next thing you know, Here We Go Brownies wine became a reality. And here we are. Voila.
Here we are. There you have it. That's the story. Let's get into our game picks. And this segment is brought to you by our friends over at Circle K.
House fans, get ready for a sizzling sensation that's about to heat up your taste buds. Circle K is bringing you a hot deal this football season. Introducing Circle K's Hot Chicken Wings. And the best part, the price is as hot as the wings themselves. Pick up 6 wings for just $5.99 at your local Circle K today. So what are you waiting for? Gather your friends, your family, and anyone else who craves the ultimate wing experience. Circle K, where every deal is hotter than ever before. Here we go, Brownies. Only at Circle K.
All right, you know what time it is, Dustin, and you'll be pleased to know that you beat me last week, so that means that we are officially tied on the season. So
someone needs. Allie and I were talking about this prior to the show. We don't have a monetary or figuratively thing to give away for the championship. Like something like an item for whoever wins this. Allie and I battled last year to the point of the Super Bowl, and we both picked the Philadelphia Eagles. And well, they lost. So we had to punt into next year. But think of a prize, guys, or something that we have to win, right? Like we need some kind of, it was going to be, what was it, a tomahawk at
Marble Room. Yep.
at the Marble Room. And of course, that didn't happen because we punted. But guys, drop some comments. Give us some ideas of what that award should be. It actually was going to come down to who could throw the football further, and that scared the hell out of me because I wasn't looking forward to that because God knows if I lost that, I'd never hear the end of it. So I'm glad that didn't happen. So, but Allie, let's do our picks, and then I just want to go around the league a little bit and talk about last night's Philadelphia Eagles Chiefs game because that was very interesting. I'd like to just talk about.
Well, let's start with that. Let's start with that then.
Yeah, Allie, the Browns are 7-3. The Kansas City Chiefs are 7-3, and here's a little fun fact for you, Allie. The Browns have scored more points than the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Let me say that again. The Cleveland Browns have scored more points than the Kansas City Chiefs have done with Patrick Mahomes, two-time Super Bowl quarterback. So I got to tell you, this year, I don't want to say this could be the year, but I'm starting to feel like everything is kind of doing weird things because that's how we get there. The Cleveland can't get there the easy way. It's got to be hard and rough and tough to get there. But Allie, we're a half game out of having the best record in the AFC, which, by the way, mind-boggling.
That's crazy. I mean, that is crazy.
And by the way, how many drop passes happened in that football game last night? I mean, that was. Did you watch the game? Like that
I didn't watch all of it. I was absolutely just so tired. We ended up going to bed, but yes, it's crazy. What a time to be alive, and to think too that. It's such an up and down season for the Browns, not in the sense of play, right? But just adversity and other ways, whether it's injuries and just crazy things. But they're still finding ways to win. And this is something that we've been critical of the team in years past, that you have all the pieces, you have all the parts, just figure out a way to win. And the way that they are, that's what's the most impressive, I think, is the way that they're overcoming this adversity and they're winning as a team and they're celebrating as a team. And it's not just, it's not Baker versus Odell. It's none of that. This is a team unit that is just completely bought in no matter who's under center. And I love to see it. I do.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you caught a little bit of this. Rich Eisen brought this up on his show, and they were talking about specifically coaches of the year, like who should be a candidate in the National Football League. And they all went around the room, and Rich goes, well, I look at it as somebody that is coached outside of their normality in a season, has done adversity, done all these things. And you know what he said? He said Kevin Stefanski. And I know that several weeks ago, people would say that's a crazy thought. But for him to do it with three different quarterbacks, no Nick Chubb, his number one churner on offense, and to be at 7-3, I'm sorry, but that is coaching. That is adversity. That is taking your skill set and maximizing the best that you can with the situation you have, because I don't know how many coaches could do that, Allie. I mean, I'm just being like, there's probably a few, but like Bill Belichick, there's a few coaches around the league you could say that could coach to that level, but to do what he's done with what he's had. And I got to tell you, Allie, if you watch any of those post-game conferences with him, this team is dialed in and they're playing for Kevin Stefanski. They believe in him as a coach, and he has 110% command of this team. And I think that's important. And he has these guys dialed in every week. He just does. And I think it's very refreshing to see. And I think the Browns are going to have to start talking contract extensions instead. Like that's a whole nother conversation. But how great would that be, Allie, that we'd have a coach here more than 4 years and stability? Wasn't that the word we used to use early in the days of the podcast? Like
alignment. Stability
alignment.
And alignment.
Freaking Allie was calling alignment like every podcast. Like she's like, I just want alignment. Well, we
I was
have
saying that
alignment.
Allie, the name Allie was short for alignment. Like that's all we
Yeah.
talked about. And
Yeah.
we've had that. And man, it's been such a luxury. I know that we all have complaints, right, over maybe play calling, things like that, but we cannot deny the way that he has handled so much adversity and the buy-in
Yeah.
from the team. That starts at the top. And I think that he deserves all the credit in the world. So it's fun to see. All right, let's get into some game picks, Dustin. Let's start with Thursday night football. Well, Thursday day football because it's Thanksgiving.
Did you say we're tied? Did you say we're officially tied?
We are
now?
tied. Yes, we are
Okay.
tied. Yep.
All right. 7 weeks.
Let's
Go
go
ahead.
with Packers at Lions.
Lions.
Commanders at Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Niners, Seahawks.
Niners. The
Niners.
Niners.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're going to get things figured out. Dolphins at Jets.
Dolphins.
And it's not Zach Wilson led Jets. This is Tim
I know.
Boyle led Jets, by the way.
That's why I was like Dolphins because they're down to the.
It is the Dolphins. Bucks at Colts.
Ugh. This is kind of
Yeah.
Bucks at Colts.
At Colts, yep.
Because Baker's Baker, he's up and down. I'm gonna go Bucks for the upset on the road. I'm gonna go Bucks.
You're gonna go with the Bucks. I don't know that that's an upset. I mean,
But I'm
technically,
saying-
I think it is. But like,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I'm
it
saying
doesn't
like
feel like an upset. So I
Yeah.
agree. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. Patriots at Giants.
that's
and barf.
garbage. Patriots. I know. You're actually debating if Bill Belichick can win a game. I know it's crazy, right? Like
You're going Patriots. I'm gonna go Giants here.
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Giants. Steelers at Bengals.
God, who's starting quarterback? Do we know for the Bengals who they've
So
officially?
it is going to be God, what's his name?
The guy that only threw one NFL pass before.
Yeah, it's Jake Browning.
Who do we want in that game? I guess more importantly, I guess.
Actually, yeah.
I mean, I guess if the Bengals won, they would kind of propel themselves. God, I don't want the Steelers in the playoffs. Well, the Steelers are garbage. You know what?
Yeah.
The Steelers are garbage, and they've been getting lucky. I'm going to go Bengals here. I just think they're at home, and I don't even know who's favored in this game, but it's ugly. They both aren't going to have any offense, and I just think the Bengals are going to have enough to get ahead of. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Steelers. Barf, hate to say it, but I am. Panthers at Titans.
Panthers are horrible. Titans.
Yeah, Titans. Jags at Texans.
Jags. Ooh, that's a good game. That's a really good game. Both are playoff teams right now. If the playoffs were tomorrow, this could be a preview of a playoff game. I'm gonna go. I think the Texans come down back to earth a little bit. I'm gonna go Jags here. I think the Jags are gonna win on the road because the Jags are starting to get a little hot. So,
give me the Texans. Yeah, give me the Texans here in Houston.
Allie and I got 3 games we got to watch this week.
Yeah, we do. Saints at Falcons.
Saints. I like the Saints in this one.
Yeah, agreed. Rams at Cardinals.
I don't really want the Rams to win because I'm going there in a week or so. Did Cardinals win last week with Kyler Murray back? Did they put together a pretty good game?
I don't think that they did.
Or did they have a bye?
No. Texans won.
Oh, they played the Texans, so that's a good team. But I think didn't they win the week before though? I think or something or came close.
Yeah, they beat the Falcons.
Yeah. So, and who did they play again?
They play the Rams. They're hosting the Rams.
They're hosting the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm gonna go. This sounds crazy, but I'm gonna go Cardinals in this one, and just because they're at home, I'm gonna pick the Cardinals.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Okay. Wow, we got 4 games.
Yeah, we do. Browns at Broncos.
Well, I do think the Browns will win this game. I think it'll be a close squeaker. I'm going to go Browns on this one. It'll be a
Give me
close
the
game.
Browns. Bills at Eagles.
Whew. It's at Bills at Eagles. Man, the Bills have a tough schedule. Wow. I'm going to go Eagles here. The Eagles look a little hot. They're playing with. They got some mustard
Yeah.
the way they're playing right now.
Yep. Give me the Eagles. Chiefs at Raiders.
Now you watch. This will be the one the freaking Raiders will win, but I'm going to go Chiefs.
No, give me the Chiefs. Ravens at Chargers on Sunday Night Football.
Okay. I have thought about. I am going Chargers actually in this one. Chargers upset because it's at home on Sunday Night Football. Chargers. I feel good about this one actually. I feel good about this actually.
I think I do too. Actually, I think I agree with you. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to go with the Chargers. And last but not least, Bears at Vikings Monday night.
The Vikings had a real close loss, I believe, in Josh Dobbs. I'm going Vikings.
I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think the Vikings are actually like kind of decent. And before we wrap up, we just want to tell you about what we've got going on in March. Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners?
Well, guys, come join us March 11th on our cruise with the Browns fans and 17 plus alumni. March 11th, go to brownsfancruise.com now to join us. We'll be going to Jamaica, the Bahamas. It'll be a great fun time doing great stuff from the ship. But 5 days when it's cold wherever you live, or if you just want to get some sun and work on that tan and just get out there and enjoy the islands and stuff, a great 5 days to join us as we take into part out of Miami, March 11th. Come join us for the fan cruise. Go to brownsfancruise.com today to find out more.
There you have it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We wish you all a safe, happy, and healthy Thanksgiving. I hope that you all eat so much that you get sick. Actually, I don't. I don't wish that for anybody, but have a good time.
Allie, just real quick, one thing that made me so happy about Sunday's game was how much emotional that was for the team. And a lot of the national broadcasters have brought this up of how loud it was there on Sunday and how Jim Donovan going out there and slamming the guitar and then going up there and then Nick Chubb coming out, even though he's got the crutches and cheering the team on. Like how much that was such a big game for the Browns. Allie, you're right. First time in this team's franchise history to win back-to-back games against the Ravens and Steelers. But Allie, here's the best one for you. The Browns have given up the least amount of yards in 10 games since the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers. We've given up the least amount of yards since. And by the way, fun fact, everybody, if you go back and look at your history, the 2008 Steelers won the Super Bowl. Just saying. They won that Super Bowl. And I got to tell you, I feel like there's something special cooking in Cleveland. And I got to tell you, they're doing it in the most unorthodox way to get there but I love it. It's kind of a ride and we're going to have to enjoy it. But Allie, just a few things. If we get to Sunday and we win this football game, we go up to 90% chance of winning or making the playoffs. It's almost a shoe-in if we win this Sunday. So again, another big game. It's an AFC game. That's why it goes up so much because it's another AFC win. But boy, how good would that feel to come back to Cleveland?
Yeah, well, there you have it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.